left, right.
So this evening's episode is definitely an interesting one. We're talking about homeowner association fees, talking about condo and co-op fees in the form of maintenance fees, comment charges, real estate taxes. I think it's a pretty interesting discussion if you're not an owner of any of these types of places and you're looking at getting into property owning, whether it's a single family, whether it's a condo or a co-op. Definitely interesting stuff. Also, we kind of get into some anti-Semitic remarks at the end that we were talking about that I came across through one of the agents. Bad stuff, but definitely some interesting perspective. So listen on, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the other end. Also, be nice. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Cross this bill.
Cheers.
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 All right, we're now live across all three platforms. Welcome to SipTalk. This is episode 77. My name is Justin DiGiulio. I'm joined, as usual, by James, the Boswell Boswell, and David Boswell. Does not have the Boswell status. Let me just ask David.
Although he should.
We probably should. David, you just held up a drink. What are you drinking?
Well, still recouping my losses for my first visit to your show, so it's still Evan Williams.
Evan Williams. Oh, that's not bad. James, what do you have over there, down there?
The trusty standby of Bush Ice.
You must have a good supply of that somewhere nearby.
Dude, it's like $8 for a 15 pack. So
it's no big flats, but it'll do.
Dude, I miss big flats so much.
So look, so obviously we want to talk some real business stuff. We want to talk about HOA fees. We want to talk about common charges and maintenance fees because that's kind of the New York City similarity to HOA fees. And James, you're looking at buying a place soon. You're in the process of buying the place. Really, I recently made a purchase outside of New York City. And David, do you rent right now?
I rent right now, yes.
Oh, cool. So outside of being homeless, we kind of span the spectrum. So that's good.
And I work in mortgages.
And you work in mortgages. Cool. So let me just ask, because I want to talk about some current event stuff, because there's just some stupid shit going on. And
as every week.
Yeah. I'm thinking about going on like a news cleanse where I only do print news. I heard somebody saying the other day that if it's not like if you only hear it on the radio, it's not important if it doesn't really make it to print. So if you're reading like the Sunday newspaper or a monthly news publication, at whatever kind of your focus in the news is, if it doesn't make it there, it's just kind of the day-to-day that it's not that important. And I kind of like that idea. So I'm thinking about cutting out I listen to a ton of radio, and when the TV's on, it's usually some version of news.
James, what did Bader say? That reading a 2-page article in besides USA Today, basically any standard print newspaper is about equivalent to watching about an hour of TV news. I'm not sure how that translates for radio, but in terms of information digested and processed, 2 pages or just reading versus an hour of watching, you get the same amount. It'll take you 5 minutes.
There's so much bullshit that I hear on the radio, and like some of it is just like I can taste kind of the motive, like what they're going. It's just really annoying. And I'll go there in a second. But what's kind of the predominant mortgage rate right now, David? Like what's a decent rate?
VA loans today, I did a few at 2.5. Standard loans today, rates shot up by about a quarter point to a half point across the board because of what was happening in the mortgage-backed securities market. Can't talk. I mean, you don't want me to talk too much about that, but rates went up because mortgage bonds were looked at less favorably. So rates went up on the bonds, and a lot of people were trying to lock in today, and rates went up. So you're looking right now, I'd say probably a 3% rate, but everything is a factor of another factor. It's all a function. So you can do a lower rate and pay more for the mortgage. Your closing costs are higher, or have a higher rate, and your closing cost could be nothing. You could come to the table with 0 and close on the loan, but at a higher rate. But it's all a function of the other. So it's hard to answer that question with a straight cut and dry answer.
But around 3% for kind of standard.
Again, there's so many factors here between how much you're putting as a down payment, what your credit score is, the nature of the loan.
If you want to put, I think, if you want to put down 10% and you're covering the costs, what's a good percentage you're getting for a mortgage?
You could be around, 2 3/4 is solid.
Okay, so 2.75. All right.
Yeah, we're still at historically low rates. They shot up today, but we're still, you could call today, I'm not saying it's a dead cat bounce of just like hopping up a little bit from all-time lows. It could keep going up if we see the bonds trading the same way, but you're still at a really great place to buy if you have the money.
Yeah, well,
if you're in that position.
I see it going up.
Yeah.
I think it's going to keep going up. So let me just ask you, because I'm curious if you guys, this is kind of a bullshit news thing that I'd be happier forgetting, but you heard about this girl who put glue in her hair.
Every warning label exists because someone has tested the theory.
Well, hold on. That makes me think of one of my favorite phrases, which I'm sure you've heard it before when people talk about, it's idiot proof. And all I can think is that they have some facility where they bring in a product and then they deploy a horde of idiots to see if they can break it. And if it passes like QC from the idiot factory, then it gets the label idiot proof. And I just have this image of like the idiot proofing facility.
Well, that's a really interesting tie-in with the Peter principle of you're elevated to the job that you're the first incompetent for, so you get up to the level of your incompetence, and I think that actually explains what we might be seeing. I'm not sure. Justin,
have you guys? Do we know if she got the glue out of her hair? Has that been? I
saw she had burns from the glue or the solvents on her. Like she got hurt. I'm not saying it was a good idea, but like she got hurt because of what happened. What she did to herself,
like the chemical burns from just like the glue interacting with her skin.
I'll be honest, I did not dive that deep into it for Justin's explained purpose of trying to forget about the story of like, this is a story, and it's only picked up since I first saw it like 2 or 3 days ago. It was on Long Crime. I was like, she actually might have a good case. Like, McDonald's coffee is often ridiculed, but that was actually a good case because they serve coffee at a temperature no one could ever drink it at, like 10 degrees below boiling.
And they had also been warned a number of times of like, hey, you guys should stop serving such hot fucking coffee.
It's often misrepresented as like
what David and James are referring to is the story where the woman sued McDonald's because she spilled the coffee on herself and she was burnt, which seems like a kind of dumb shit to do. You spill coffee, what did you expect? But what they're saying is that the case was a pretty solid case because the coffee was at an extreme temperature right below boiling, which if anybody has ever boiled anything, it's not ingestible. And she did have pretty severe burns and she had a decent case because just there's no reason coffee should reach that temperature right before it's served you. Now, I really, I have to go the Darwinist route here and just say like, just kind of
fair.
However, the woman now has an agent, and everybody. I mean, her hair.
I'm just thinking, like, what is the agent going to do for her?
Well, I wonder if the agent reached out to her, or if maybe there was. It seems like a bit of a ploy. The fact that you do some dumb shit and then it's one thing if you like try to sue, but she did some dumb shit and shared it on the internet. Created a buzz,
and now she's getting rewarded for it.
Well, all right, sorry. I thought you were talking about the McDonald's lady.
No, we're talking about
Gorilla. Before internet. Yeah, sorry.
No, Gorilla Glue lady now has an agent.
That's stupid.
When Justin said that, all I can think is like she's now monetizing her stupidity, which makes me think that Idiocracy just won like another point.
Well, I mean,
it's the American dream. Look at the last 8 years.
You can give her some points for monetizing some dumb shit that she did.
in that respect, there's a morsel of respect there. But I don't know. That's some dumb shit.
I don't know how much she's making from the agent deal, because I've done some really stupid shit that you could pay me a lot of money to talk about. I'd still say, nah, man, I'm not sharing that with the world. And super glue actually probably outpaces a lot of them. And I've done some stupid things.
Well, so look, so I obviously you guys know probably firsthand some dumb shit that I've done. A lot of it involves cars. But something, it just makes me think, because I actually jotted it down. I posted this the other day over the weekend because I got a reminder on social media about some stuff that happened 5 years ago. And in 2016, I was driving upstate on Valentine's Day to see my mom. I had some flowers in the back of the car. I wanted to surprise her. And it was a remarkably cold evening. And I remember it being like -10 or -20. And I'm like, I don't even know if I've ever experienced that temperature. It seems like maybe in my head, I'm exaggerating somehow. And I was just going to leave it alone and be like, there's no way it was that cold that night. And I ended up with a crazy flat tire on the side of the Northway. And it was just, it was too cold to do anything outside of the car. And I looked up the historic weather data and the negative for that day. And bear in mind, this is like 10 o'clock at night. So it's pretty as much as cold as it gets. The negative for the day was -23 degrees where I was. So it was a really good chance it was obnoxiously cold. But what happened was I was driving upstate. I was in the 911 and the tire just exploded. And I think there's a decent chance that maybe it was like super underinflated because the cold weather. That's it, I guess. But that car didn't come with a spare. So that's a really unfortunate place to be, but I guess they don't put a spare in this car. However, they do put a tire inflator in the car. So that's nice. They give you the tire pump.
That's nice, just like a smart car.
Sure, but if your tire explodes, and this tire literally exploded, what are you inflating?
Did you have Gorilla Glue?
I didn't have Gorilla Tape. I didn't have duct tape. So, yeah. And then I was thinking about, I've had a couple of times in the Cayenne that I own that I hit a bump. I drove that thing like it was a tank and like 80 miles an hour everywhere. But hit some crazy potholes hard, and the actual wheel fractured in half. And it happened twice on 2 different wheels, which is really
car?
And the Cayenne.
I didn't. Oh, the one you had in the DR.
Yeah, which was an awesome car, and because I knew it was a bad investment from the beginning, I drove it maximum excitement and what's that?
You lived in Charleston. I worked in car sales in Charleston and finance a little bit. So where they're getting your loan and selling you all the bullshit products. The product that we sold that was not bullshit, tire and road hazard. That was our highest sold product, and we made so much money off of it because we didn't have to pay out the claims, and it was the highest claimed against item in all of service because the Charleston roads and the Charleston curbs.
Yep.
People blow tires all the time. Tyler, I had someone come in. It was the other finance manager's girlfriend. She bought a CLA, piece of shit car. But she hit must have been like a fist-sized rock on 526, and she calls Tyler and says, "Hey, I just got this warning light." Oh, well, you better come in. We'll get the tire fixed. She comes in. This car doesn't come with a spare either, but it comes with run flat tires that a lot of people don't like because they're stiff. They run a little bit rougher. She made it 20 miles from Mount Pleasant 526 all the way around the ring to West Ashley. There was a fist-sized hole in her rim. The tire was still inflated. Not inflated, obviously. It was just because it was run flat. It had the rigidity, but she made it there. It doesn't come with a spare. But if it blows up like you did, you're fucked.
I think tire technology is something we're going to see take some big jumps. All right. So I want to get into the real estate aspect of things. Obviously, at the core, this was originally a real estate podcast, but what we're talking about today is HOAs, which is homeowner association. We're talking specifically about the fees, James, or are we talking about?
I was thinking just the case for and against, which obviously is going to roll the fees in part of the conversation, but
Okay.
it's also just the general concept of, do you want to live in an HOA?
Okay, so let me touch on the co-op and condo aspect first. It's a lot easier to explain, and I want to go more in the HOA department because it's actually not something I'm at all familiar with, and not something that I encountered out in Jersey. So
So you're not in an HOA?
I'm not. So when you're buying a condo, you're looking at paying common charges and real estate tax. Obviously, paying real estate tax because you're buying real property, and you're paying the common charges, which cover things like the common areas. So that if there's elevators, or if you have a super, it'll cover the salary for the super, or if there's doormen. If you have a lounge, it'll cover, covers that. It covers electric for the building, and just regular maintenance for the building. When you buy a co-op, you pay a maintenance fee, and because you don't own the actual property, you're basically allotted a shareholder lease on a unit in the building. So you're technically leasing that, and you're leasing it from the building. The maintenance fees include the real estate tax on the building, and that's broken down into your fractional share of the building. It's when you go to get a mortgage in New York City, it's something you need to account for, not just your mortgage costs, but these additional charges as well. And I've seen them range from $400, $500, $600 to kind of in the
Is this
under
a year?
No, a month.
A month.
And I see usually if you're looking at like a 1-bedroom south of Harlem, you're in the $1,000 to $1,200 range for either condos or co-ops in terms of your monthly maintenance. And that's on the low end. We're talking like 750,000 or less for the space.
So we're talking rent prices for other apartments in just a maintenance co-op condo charge.
It's basically money that it's like going towards your taxes or something every month on top of your mortgage. I mean, it's just something you kind of have to deal with. Here in New Jersey, we have a mortgage, and then we have real estate taxes. And it's a
Property insurance.
Well, yeah, but it's a little more simplified and considerably less than what you're looking at in Manhattan. Obviously,
Well,
Manhattan is small.
Again, you bought a detached residence, which is completely different than the joint residences you're talking about.
That's what I was getting at. It's in Manhattan. It's much smaller. It's much more dense, and typically, your property where you're living is sandwiched between people on either side of you, above and below you. They have to pay taxes, and it's collective when you're in a big building. So a lot of shared expenses with the other people in your building. So James, get into a little bit more about, so when I think HOA, I think you live in a gated community and you're kind of paying for basically whoever's operating the general facility. So the property, like the grass that's on the entranceway and the gates, and the three of us all lived in the same place in South Carolina. David, you lived there, right?
I did, yeah, for a time.
So there's a difference between, I guess if you live in an apartment complex, then rolled into your rent, like, so my apartment complex, there's property managers, there's maintenance staff, and my rent covers their salaries ostensibly. So it's not broken out. It's not like I can see $300 a month of my rent goes to covering the property managers, 200 pays for maintenance, right? It's just, here's your rent. But if you own, so I rent right now, I don't own. But if I owned a townhouse, like one of my friends does just up the road, so he owns his condo and he pays mortgage on it. And then as part of that condo, there's an HOA community for the condo, which I think if you're living in a condo, HOAs are unavoidable because you're living in a building. You can get
away from it.
Yeah, you're living in a building with, I don't know, 7 other units, and
definition,
each one's responsible. Yeah, each one of those units is responsible for some amount of the repairs and the insurance on it, and it would be really hard to be able to divide those costs out among each unit and say you're responsible for this portion of your roof and you're responsible for that portion. And then also there's common areas. I think he's got like maybe a community pool or something in his condo or whatever. So his HOA fees go to cover that. And so I can understand when you're living in a community where there's shared resources or whatever that you can't really deny access to anybody. Like you can't deny access to the repairs on one part of the roof, because if one part of the roof goes, it's going to eventually affect yours. So for townhomes, HOAs to me make sense. But when you live in a detached residence, when you've got your own land and your own house and you're independent from everybody else, so you can have an HOA community where your HOA fees go to cover maintenance of the general area. So as you said, like if it's a gated community and you're paying someone to operate the gates, you're paying for the lawn care and maintenance of the property that is not owned by people. If you've got a clubhouse or pool or any other amenities, then your fees are gonna go to cover that. But also, and I had this discussion with an older guy that I referee with about HOAs, and I told him my opposition to it, and he says your opinion will change once you become a property owner. And I said, why? He says because the HOA is also going to make it so that when your neighbor decides to put like a 72 Nova up on blocks in his front yard, you're going to have some recourse about it. And I said that's not going to matter to me. He's like, it protects your property values because it means that everybody in the community is going to be meeting at least some minimal standard of presentativeness.
That's an issue that you don't care about. You don't care that your neighbor's working on a car. But
I'm going to be the one with the Nova in my yard too.
I don't give a shit about cars either. But there are certain things that I might not want next to my house. Let's say I live next to someone and they have a neon sign flashing the swastika every night in front of my bedroom. It's kind of nice to have the recourse. And again, we had this conversation earlier today dealing with local regulations. Let's just say this is totally unincorporated property. There are no ordinances and there's no zoning. You have zero recourse. It would be kind of nice to live in HOA at that point where you can say, hey, I kind of like this shit to stop.
So I think you can just fight fire with fire there. Just put like a big flat screen facing the swastika that pays 24-hour gay porn.
But you don't want to do that. So
no, I want that shit inside.
Yeah.
But listen. I think what it sounds like is you're most frustrated with the fact that you're looking at detached property and come to find out it's in some type of community and you were not expecting to have an additional fee on top of what the mortgage is. So you're looking at places that you believe to be in your price range, and then there's another X number of dollars.
There's two factors. So one is definitely the added cost of I've got my mortgage and all the stuff that goes along with that. But there's also the idea that if I'm paying for property and this is my land and this is my house or whatever, then I have a ideological opposition to somebody being able to tell me what I can and can't do with my property so long as it's legal. But if I want to I don't like the idea that like if I want to mow my lawn every other week, or I want to paint the house a different color, or I forget to bring the garbage can off the side of the street after the day that it was picked up, or I have an extra car in my driveway because someone's spending the weekend with me, I don't want to have to worry about somebody finding me. As long as it's not parked on the street and I get a ticket from the city.
These are all common, legitimate things that HOAs do. Honestly, they're kind of on the bland side of the stupid shit that they do. Like those are all very.
I think I would be just as frustrated, which is, probably it wasn't an issue moving out here because we were I wanted more space and more privacy. And I think probably it didn't come across really any HOAs because we were further out and there's more of a spread out here. But you're looking in Charleston, South Carolina, the greater city, and it is a bit more dense down there. Definitely more communities.
Counterpoint on this exact point, I saw something of someone who bought a 20-acre lot in Virgin Montana land, and when they bought the lot, they got up there and they found out there's an HOA. Granted, this was for graveling and leveling the 1.5-mile driveways to all the houses. You remember Dyke and Pond and our driveway and how you need that shit leveled. So it wasn't stupid, but like they didn't know that these are 20-acre plots at a minimum. They still had an HOA. Virgin land never developed, but someone bought all that land and they made an HOA there. So even in the most undeveloped, you can still trip into this.
Yeah. And like, so the place that I'm bidding on right now, so it's just under a quarter acre, and there's two houses that are both within about 50 feet of my house, and there's no HOA, because the first instruction that I gave to my real estate agent, I said, don't even bother showing me a property with an HOA. I won't look at it. You can just strike anything that has an HOA off the list. I won't consider it. But this property, my youngest brother, who's going in on the property with me, he had some misgivings about it, because he felt that like the houses were pretty close and that we might have some issues with neighbors if they're weird or whatever. And when I talked to the agent about this, and he said, let me tell you something. I understand where you're coming from with the neighbor thing, but you can have issues with neighbors regardless of the size of your lot. A nosy neighbor is going to find a way of being nosy, whether they're an acre away, 10 acres away, or 30 feet away.
I was going to mention that. I mean, the thing is, the property value thing and somebody detracting from your property value is definitely a concern, and eyesores definitely a thing. And David, the swastika thing, I don't want to forget about that, because I did want to talk about some racism stuff. I'm not quite sure how to segue into it. I'm still trying, but I don't want to drop that. So
it's a means of recourse if you don't have recourse, because again, look, if you want to flash a swastika outside of your house, you are protected, but it depends on where you're living.
But you also have people putting up Trump signs, which to other people, and not everybody realizes this, but some people interpreted a Trump sign the same as a swastika. I wanted to talk, James, before we got on air, we were talking a little bit about the offer process, and you were getting frustrated with the fact that you can't be in direct contact with the seller, and you were really kind of frustrated with the process. So
it's like an arranged marriage.
Well, to a degree, but just run me through where you were and where the frustration happened, because I think
and so
a lot
you
of
as a
people,
real estate agent can help explain this in a way
I definitely.
All right. So quickly found a place, looked at it once, thought about it, looked at it another time, decided to put in an offer, talked to my agent, and decided that we we're going to offer on it. And I told him, I said, I'm okay if the bid gets rejected, but I want to start somewhere. So they listed it at 310. I said, we're going to come in at 282. I said, I want to start at the bare minimum for what's a reasonable offer without negotiating in bad faith.
So look, let me just tell you, there's a thing about putting in an offer that's insulting and too low, and you're not going to get any traction. And it may actually, even if you up your offer, you already made that person dislike you. But
we had this exact conversation.
But I'm going to actually say, James, I don't know your local economy, but I don't think, just looking at the numbers that you just gave me, that your offer was obnoxiously low. I actually think it was a very reasonable offer, and I think with the right next moves, you could actually pull something off. But it sounds
that was the strategy. Is I asked my agent, I said, I don't want to negotiate in bad faith. I don't want to put them off and say, like, I'm offering 250, because that would be too low. Yeah, 200. There we go. Yeah, exactly. And so I said,
I get paid every time I submit an application.
What's the minimum that I can offer that's going to start the conversation, but still be kind of a low ball that I expect to get rejected, but it sets a stage? And he says, probably 280, 285. And I said, all right, let's go 280, 250. So that's what we did. So that was our first offer. And he sent me the contract. I read through it, signed it off, gave it to him. He sends it out. Okay, cool. By the end of the day, he calls me up and he says, okay, the other thing that's important to know, that so this property was originally listed at 330. They dropped the price down to 320. And right now in Charleston, a lot of properties are going within 2 or 3 days of listing. The market's super hot. Yes. So this property was originally listed in December. It's now mid-February. So this market's been on the market for 2 months in a market where a lot of things are selling in 2 or 3 days. It's also held by a trust. So I look at it as these people are just like, they inherited this property, somebody died, and they just need to get their money for it. They asked for too much and they've been sitting out, they're going to get antsy. So I say, I've got leverage in this negotiation because they just want to, they just want their money. And they've already stepped up their basis on it. So they don't even have to worry about capital gains or losses.
James, big point here. The reason buying power has shot up is because interest rates have dropped. And as we talked about earlier today, interest rates just shot back up by a lot. So that will diminish buying power elsewhere. That should hem you into your position. Like, hey, everyone's points just went up by a half point. So it gives you more.
Yeah,
Just
It
keep
does
that
well,
in mind from when you
I
started
hadn't
this a
considered
week
that,
ago.
but I like that idea. So anyways,
keep that in mind.
I put in at 282.50. They were at 310, 282.50. My agent comes back and says, all right, we got a counter offer. What is it? He says 298. And I say, that's too far away from me. We can come up with a different, I can counter back. And I settled on 287 as my counter back. And then, so we put in the offer this morning and my agent calls me up and he
So
says,
can I just pause you on that though? So your offer was probably kind of a standard close, maybe 60 days, maybe 90 days, providing an inspection or whatever. But you made your counter offer back to them at a higher price. You can always counter offer at the same price, but with slightly different terms.
yeah.
And double down on your original offer. You're like, hey, this is what it is, but we're willing to do this and close in this time, providing I can get this in.
Right. So basically what I'm asking for is I want them to cover the closing cost to minimize the amount of cash that's coming out of my pocket. And so I'm willing to move in terms of the amount that I'm going to be financing versus the amount that's coming out in cash. So my original offer was 290 less 7,500 of closing costs. So that gets you to 282.5. Their counter was 299 less 1,000. So then I came back and I said, all right, we'll do 294 less 7,000. And that's where we stand right now. I haven't heard back from them. I talked to my agent this morning, and what I say to him is, look, I'm getting really frustrated here because I'm only like every round of these offers is taking a day or two to go through, and I have to fill out a contract and re-sign everything again and again. Whereas I feel like if the four of us, you, my agent, myself, the seller's agent, and the seller were to all get together, either by phone or in person, more likely phone, we could probably hash all of this out in under an hour. Why can't we do that?
It's like playing virtual checkers with someone where you have to wait 24 hours for the next play.
And that's very, very frustrating. Trust me, like we deal with a lot of international people, and like the fact, like I send an email and I have to wait a whole day to get an answer on it, and then I can't reply to that email. So like it's just dealing international is a pain in the ass. So typically what I find that happens when you put the buyer and the seller in contact is the deal falls apart. Why is that? It's because most people are very bad negotiators. Now, the real estate agents, for the most part, now their fiduciary duty is to their client, but they're also trying to make a deal. So a good real estate agent is really going to do their best to see the other person's perspective and almost like playing chess, be a step ahead of them, understanding what they're thinking. And also be fast. The problem is you get some bad real estate agents that aren't good negotiators. They're not good with people. They're not good at making things happen very quickly. And you do this back and forth. I don't know your real estate agent. I don't know.
My agent's been pretty good, but that's also because I've had to tell him I've been pretty strong with a lot of my convictions. And I even told him this morning when he says, well, normally like you would kind of tell me where you stand in terms of like, what's your open, what's your walk away point? What are the things that are important to you? And then I negotiate for you. And I told him the only thing that I've been looking forward to in the process of buying a home is getting to be the negotiator. And now you're taking that away from me.
Well,
I'm paying you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, you're not paying him.
No, he's going to get paid by the seller.
Yeah. But it's not like you can negotiate money off of his commission.
Little column A, little column B.
But so to your point about how if the buyer and the seller get together, the deal falls apart. What about the buyer and the seller's agent?
Again, but now you're asking your agent to just step back and give up, and it's a really difficult place. He doesn't want to see the deal die. So if he puts you in direct touch, it's a very
here's the
very
thing.
the
He
thing
might
is,
see,
James.
he's gonna see the deal die if I don't get to negotiate. Is one of the other possibilities.
James, we saw this in car sales, and you've never worked direct sales, which is tough. But
No, I
in
have.
car sales, when you did
Briefly.
insurance for a week,
all
right?
right.
Shut up, you didn't. No, in car sales, this is a third base coach. A third base coach is never welcome. Justin, I think you can understand what I'm talking about here. Someone who's not financially interested, but is directing what's going on, and that always fucks up your deal.
So
But I'm the runner, not the third
but
base.
the thing is, so your agent could be very good at identifying properties for you, things like that, but he may not be the best negotiator. At the end of the day, an agent who's a really good salesperson and really good people person is going to be the one who's going to help you close the fastest and get you the closest to what you're looking for. And it is about being slick, and it's almost about playing the other party. But your agent needs to represent your interest, and he needs to hold the other agent accountable. Like, look, I have this offer. I need an answer by 2:00 this afternoon. Let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to another place. And my buyer really likes this place, but he doesn't have time for bullshit. Do me a favor. Get off the phone. Call your person. Call me back in 5 minutes. Call me back whether you got them on the phone or not. I just want to know if you got them on the phone, what happened, or if you didn't get them on the phone, when you think you can speak to them next. I'll talk to you in 5. Bye. And you just hang up.
Justin, as a licensed real estate agent, do you have a true legal fiduciary duty? Or is
Yeah.
it just you do?
Well, legally, yeah, that's one of your major duties. First of all, as a licensed real estate agent, there's no such thing as an unlicensed real estate agent. All right. You're just breaking the law. Second off, a lot of agents, so I really like playing by the rule book because I feel like I just feel like you can use that to your advantage, the fact that you play by the rule book, but you know the rule book really, really well. Your fiduciary duty is to your client, which if you're a buyer's agent, that would be James in this case, or if you're a seller's agent, that would be the seller. Now, you have to be real with the market, and there's a lot of stats and studies that come out that whether for sale by owners get more money or less money than properties that are listed by the agent. And I've seen the studies go both ways, but at the end of the day, my thinking is either my job is a full-time job as an agent. I'm less of an agent these days, more of a business owner. But what I do is a full-time job. So if you want to represent your property on your own and do all of that work, be my guest. If you don't, that's what I'm here for. And that, I don't think it's a very hard sell, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of correspondence that we do. And if you have a life outside of listing your property, if you're listing and marketing your property the right way, or searching for a property the right way, that's going to eat into everything else that's going on in your life.
Well, to your point about what my agent can and can't do for me, so I look at it as my agent's going to be able to help me find properties. He's going to be able to help contact the other agent and get viewing times. He's going to be good on terms of getting the paperwork and a lot of the logistics out of the way. And I get that a lot of people either don't like or actually are afraid of negotiation, in which case having an agent that will negotiate for you is great. I'm not one of those people. So I want to be the one doing the negotiation, and that's the only part that I want to be a part of. And
that's because you just like arguing.
Yes, I do.
That's what. So let me.
But that's how you see negotiation.
Let me back you up. Let me back you up.
It's not helpful.
As a salesperson, here's a secret skill, not so much a secret skill. But let me ask you, James, would you say your interpersonal skills are the best?
Would I want them to be?
No,
David and I both know. So
That's why I said, like, you love arguing, but negotiating is not arguing. And Justin can speak to this a lot better than I can.
Well, what I will say is James probably the smartest person I know. I'm sure I know. There's a good chance I know people that are way smarter than you. I don't know that because I'm not
hide it well.
But I do.
But
based on the evidence.
But I think you're a very smart person. But I think when an argument versus a negotiation.
I'm not looking to argue here. I'm
but,
like negotiation.
I think
is
you were
moving
very
from
good.
where you are.
I think
call the presence. James isn't looking to argue. What the fuck?
I think you're a very good arguer because you double down on what you know to be right. And you're not going to double down on something that is not right. So you might have an opinion, but you're not going to double down on it unless you know it's fact, right?
Okay.
When it comes to negotiation, it's a lot more like playing poker, where there's no fact, there's a lot of BS, and there's a lot of gray area with that conversation.
I'm aware of all of this.
I know. Sure. What we're trying to tell you is that you see the two things as the same thing, and they're not the same thing. You see negotiation as an argument where you're right and you can win, but you're taking out all the emotion of dealing with a home purchase. These people have lived in this home for 10 years and you're going to lowball them with that. You're not taking into all the things you have to do to soothe them over to get there. Honestly, I
haven't had the opportunity to do so.
Well, let me make a suggestion.
And thank God for that.
Let me make a suggestion.
The deal's still alive because of it.
What are your thoughts on getting your real estate license and representing yourself? Because really, my thinking is, one, you just go to a real estate company and then you have access to all the resources. There should be no monthly fees. There shouldn't really be an onboarding fee if you're joining a traditional brokerage, and you're still going to make money on the transaction. But the thing is, in 2021, a real estate agent's primary role, and I think very far from, I don't even think this should really be the role at all, is identifying listings for you. Okay, because you can set up a filter on Zillow or Realtor.com or Trulia, and you're going to get those listings near real time as they hit the MLS. Because if they're hitting the MLS, they're also being listed on something that syndicates out to the other websites as well. So if you just go to Realtor.com or Trulia, or there's a couple other ones, and you put in your criteria, every day you're going to get new listings in your email.
That's what I've been doing.
Sure. So really identifying,
along with how many other people.
Identifying the property is not the biggest role of a real estate agent. You need them for negotiating. You need them for guiding you through the process. And as a buyer, they're free to you. So they need to be bringing some real value. My thinking is you're not happy with the way the process is going, with you basically being forced to like put on a blindfold and somebody leads you to the next step. And that's not your character, so I fully understand that. But getting the real estate license in the state that you live in, that you're buying in, which I assume you're going to continue living there, is a very small amount of time investment. And you take a state exam, which I can tell you something about the state exam. My guess is the New York state exam might be slightly more difficult than the Charleston state exam. That's a bias. That's a bias.
State.
Charleston State's a tough school to get into.
The South Carolina state exam.
For the record, I did it at Wells Fargo as a banker that was not allowed to originate loans. They just figured that it was cheaper to insure us as licensed people to 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 mortgage officers. It took me all 6 hours, and Wells Fargo paid for it, and they're not generous, so it didn't cost that much.
Really, all I'm asking for here, to answer the accusations of the peanut gallery, I'm well aware that as part of a negotiation, I'm going to start somewhere and have to move up from there. And that I can't just, like, unless I'm willing to lose the property, then I can't just dig into an argument and say, I'm not going to budge on this. So I'm aware that negotiations are a push and pull and a give and take.
I get that, but I've always seen, I'm just looking at your dating history where there's any push and pull and you just fuck off. So like, I don't know how this is going to work.
All right. So,
because very much, because unlike my dating history, this is transactional.
I would argue that. So look, but I think we did a pretty good job explaining this major difference between HOA fees and common charges and maintenance fees.
Well, let's get the peanut gallery to weigh in on this one.
We haven't talked about the
HOA, pro or
restrictions
con?
that depends.
Are you?
Well,
would you buy a
let me
place
hear-
that's in an HOA?
Let
Clearview.
me just
It-
ask the live, David, let me just ask the live crowd.
Yeah.
You guys are watching live. Do you, and you own, which I realize is a decreasing population because of whatever direction the economy is going. If you own a condo, a co-op, or a home that's in an HOA, and you pay these fees, it's more specifically if you're in an HOA, but
Yeah.
I'm curious about all three. Because I'm curious, we've been exceedingly boring tonight because a lot of people are not really interested in these facts of, the questions about buying and homeowner, and obviously the back and forth about James dating. But I'm curious if anybody's for HOAs or against HOAs and why. And I have a feeling we're not going to get much. We're not going to get much feedback, but I'm just going to hit the comments real quick and see what I got on here. Let's see.
You do that, Justin. Also keep in mind, you did want to circle back to the whole neon swastika and blaring music
So
example for HOAs.
I'm not seeing much in terms of the comments on the buying. Doug also an intro community that you I don't know. All right. So let me, we're way back. People wanted to join. So I got an email yesterday, and something that drives me fucking insane is when I show up to work and I had difficult time parking yesterday. I didn't want to pay for a garage. I spent some time in the street driving around in rectangles trying to find parking. I finally found a space, and I had to walk forever and a day. It was like almost a mile I had to walk then up to the office. And by the time I got to the office, I was
It's a lot.
And I sit down, I look at my email, and there was a couple. I don't want to get too specific about this, but there was an issue with racism in my office. I didn't get the full story. I was just made aware that something may have happened. I needed, and not even that any action needed to be taken, but just kind of wanted my opinion. And I said, well, find out if things are copacetic, or if you think action needs to be taken, or even if no action really should be taken, if maybe a conversation or a quick word with somebody needs to be had. The thing about racism is that a lot of it's unintentional, and it's just usually just dumb people doing racist shit. The majority of it. But then I opened my email after somebody sitting
A
down.
good amount. I don't
A good
know.
amount. Obviously, there's some crazy like swastika.
I'm just not sure
Wow.
about the majority, but I'd say a good amount is, the good old fashioned, well-intentioned racism where they don't really mean it, but it's still racist as fuck.
Well, there's also the whole implicit bias thing where you're not even.
That's a different aspect of it. So hear me out. And because this is not implicit bias, and this is not a kind of slight.
All right, let's
I
hear
got
it.
an email. Somebody's saying urgent, open immediately. I opened it, and it's like, are you aware X person working at your organization is a sexist, misogynist, racist, anti-Semitic, like that, and then went on and on about all of this stuff, and then included probably a dozen screenshots about shit that was said in Facebook groups and Facebook posts and things like that. And that person was fired from my company, first of all, almost 2 years ago. Now, no racist issues came up when that person was working. However, I was suspect of this person kind of belonging to certain organizations but very short-lived career. You don't know everything about everybody before you hire them. And
You can't. And it would be wrong to try to figure all of that out ahead of time, because that's
well,
Wait,
let me
why
tell
are
you,
you being held responsible for someone who no longer even works for you?
well, that's yeah. But when I interview someone, I don't do an "Are you racist?" search on the internet to see if you're racist. Okay, I look you up on social media. If it looks relatively clean, that's fine.
That's all.
What if there's
entirely
nothing
reasonable.
on social media?
Then that's fine. Like, what am
That's
I?
perfect.
I'm not
That's
digging-
perfect. Nothing to crucify you with.
I'm not digging and digging deep. The one thing that the person did send is they sent the person's LinkedIn page, which said they still work at my organization. But really, this person has like 8 LinkedIn connections, and the page hasn't been updated in 3, or in 2.5 years. But what I want to get at is, I want to kind of touch on, first off, at my company, I want to make this very clear. Being racist or judgmental or biased, I don't stand for. And often I call people out on them saying things that they don't quite realize that they're saying. And steering is something that is an illegal term, which means like directing people to a neighborhood based off ethnicity or race or their gender, or family status or something like that. Like, oh, a lot of gay people live in this area. You should live in Hell's Kitchen. Like that's steering, and that's illegal. And I catch people everyone, like someone might have a client that's flaming, who does like who acts in like Hair or something like that, and they dress in drag. Hair is a Broadway show that they dress in drag, right?
Why are you asking us? We both hate Broadway. We both hate musicals so much that we left the entire state of New York.
Yeah, couldn't get far enough away.
Fair enough, but I'll have
fucking off Broadway chases us, but god damn it, fuck you, San Francisco.
But I have people be like, oh, I found in this place, I think it'll be really comfortable, and I'm like, no, you can't say that. First off, I want you to backtrack as to what made you think that, and then realize that you need to be finding them the best property based on a number of factors. If they happen to go to the neighborhood and feel comfortable there, that's one thing. But like, you have to understand. So and it doesn't happen very often at all. But a couple of things that I noticed is this person, like, just literally ripped the agent to shreds. And the posts that were bad, they dug into them, and then like, I'm thinking of like, what's the bullet, a hollow point bullet that like obviously goes through you and then explodes inside you.
Yeah, hollow point.
I like thinking about the knife into the ribs and then you twist, because it's very intimate. You're right up to their body and then you twist the knife, and it's just like that much more painful because you're looking into their eyes at that point.
But I was really
romantic.
Frustrated. I was really frustrated, guys, because the person was right, and it was something that was obviously out of my control, and then catching up with me almost 2 years later. And I'm hoping it was no reflection on me, but a lot of this stuff just really, like, I want to, and you guys both grew up in a semi-Jewish household, and
very accurate.
Yeah, well, it was.
No, I wasn't joking. That's very. It was semi-Jewish. It was very middling.
It was one of those. I got this email. And I was like, fuck. I just got to the office. I'm like, I got to leave the office now and take a walk around the block. But the agent shared a post, and I'll read it to you.
Ooh.
Missed that last part.
This person shared a post, so they took someone else's post and then basically reposted it. But I'm just curious, kind of, this is probably the least mean thing, but and I know there's a degree of kind of hatred or like supremacists or whatever you want to call it behind it. But I just want your opinion. This is the shared post. Hello, everyone. Just a reminder that Hanukkah is one of the least important occasions on the Hebrew calendar. It is mostly just an envious 20th century coup fueled by their constant desire to feel oppressed and slighted. In practical terms, it's fake and gay.
You know what? I've actually never bought Hanukkah candles. The Rothschild bankers have always bought them for me.
Do you like
Damn,
the
those-
space laser?
So
When they have the time.
So, to me, this, I don't want to, I hate getting political, but this made me think,
Power through it.
what this made me think was somebody saying, fuck Catholics. They celebrate Christmas like it's about Rudolph and Frosty and Santa, and they have no idea even what they're celebrating, and it's just gay as shit. Because he basically called it fake and gay. Now, if you want to say gay as in a celebratory, like, cool, by all means, but I don't think
That's not the context. I don't know. I don't think anybody uses that word that way anymore.
But I mean,
I'm pretty gay at this conversation.
so what was really the root of this that pissed me off is that people just say mean things, and that drives me insane. Like, why do you want to post something online or like go to somebody else's post and just say some shit underneath the post? Like, what place in that world, in our world, does that happen?
I had this conversation with a friend at my mortgage company today because he did these friendly little trollings on this climbing and hiking community where you just talk about how that rope's not going to support you. They're completely harmless, but just like saying completely wrong things just to get a response. I'm fully in favor of that. That's really funny. James, Ken M. I sent him that link. But there's a huge difference between saying something that is willfully stupid just to get a response and saying something like the Jews are going to fire a space laser, and they did at the campfire in California in 2018 and they killed 3,000 people. Like, there's a huge difference between these two equally outlandish statements.
What's the intent?
I mean, I think the intent with this one was the similar idea of me attacking the Catholics and saying you've lost the point. As far as the Jewish holidays are concerned, this isn't a high holiday, and it's been kind of not faked, but that he used the word fake, and I think the direction he was going was you're competing with Christmas.
Well, it's been commercialized because it
happens to
coincide roughly with the holiday season.
Well, if it's been commercialized, then why didn't the Jews control it?
They do.
But look,
okay.
But what just drove me nuts was that people just kind of like go around and kick people in the shins.
It's a mouse click away to share something hateful. It's so easy. They've made it so easy.
When I go online and I see people that say shit that I very much disagree with, for the most part, I don't follow a lot of people that say things I really disagree with. And a lot of the times, most of the stuff that I disagree with is short-sighted liberalness, which I'm pretty liberal, but like the cancel rent thing, where I'm like,
I get there.
That's a good idea, except
I get there too. I get there too, because you're talking about canceling rent for a lot of single family homes that are counting on this one single property to support them. Like, I don't agree with the cancel rent thing. If you're going to cancel rent, then the government's going to fucking pay for it. Don't make the property owners pay for it. If you're going to do a government inspired action, the government's paying for it. Not, you don't get to say that it's called an unfunded mandate. You get to say, we're going to make you do this, but we're not going to supply any resources to do it. I agree. I'm as liberal as they come. James will agree. I'm further left than he is, which is further left than you are. I don't agree with the cancel rent. That's stupid.
But again, I may make a comment in a cancel rent post and be like, but I get it that someone.
Why would you do that, though?
I get
Why would you?
I'll be back in a sec. I got another beer.
I might say something along the lines of like, I get it that you can't afford rent and you don't deserve to be evicted, but this shouldn't be at the landlord's sole expense, as in they're not getting any help and they're technically being screwed by the government.
I 100% agree with you, but the only difference between our two positions is who the onus lays on. And in New York City, where how many of your clients work in food and bev? Have been fucked.
Many. But
So I'm just trying to, like,
hear me out.
they-
David, hear me
they-
out. What I'm
they
saying
should
is
get
that,
help.
What I'm saying is that I'm not going to go to this. I'm not talking about cancel rent. I'm talking about the culture in saying hateful things online. I'm not going to go to that person's
Sorry,
post
you just
and
said
be like
the cancel rent program. So I can only address the issues that you're
We're not
bringing up.
talking about the cancel rent. We're not talking about the cancel rent culture. What we're talking about is hateful things being said. Whereas what I'm saying is I may go inside and offer a different opinion or a conflicting opinion, but I'm not going to say you want to cancel rent.
I know,
because
but
you're poor and you don't want to work.
this is on a social media group, and why are you commenting? Because
Because I share some values with these people.
That's fine, but why? What value could that ever get you, Justin?
But
I'm asking you a question. You spent a certain amount of time typing this comment up and you posted it. That is an amount of time. How much do you make hourly? You don't have to say, it doesn't matter, but multiply that by hourly. And you spent money doing that for what return?
Well, how many hearts and minds are you going to change here?
But look, here's my thinking is that
it's like me talking to QAnon and saying that the Jews aren't actually drinking the blood of kids. Like, I know I could do that and I'm correct, but it would cost me time and I would get no movement.
Okay. I haven't done this recently, but when the cancel rent hashtag started appearing in April of last year, that's when I was making some comments. When I realized it was a whole movement and it was a fuck your landlord movement, then I disengaged. Okay. But when it was a new thing, I tried to add some perspective. But what I'm saying,
I'm not blaming you for ever having a say in the conversation. I would never, ever do that, especially how the movement has changed over the last year.
Hold on, listen to me. At that point, it was a conversation. Now it's not a conversation.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it from the perspective of now. Back then, it was more of a conversation, and then it got some wind under its wings, and it's taken off.
I always want to have a conversation about something.
Sure.
I don't ever want to.
But that's you,
impose.
James, I, and a lot of our listeners. But what I'm saying is that I don't think it's, and I don't seem to be getting any traction with you on this. Saying hateful things like you're just poor and you don't want to work isn't a constructive way to get at that. And I don't understand.
No, it isn't.
What I want to do is I want to
No, it's not.
to people. I want to draw attention to the people that are saying shit things for the sake of riling people up.
You kind of have to drown out the 1.83% on both sides of the standard deviation because they're fucking crazy. You have to deal with the other 96%, 96.4. Like that's how you're gonna make it by. I'm not defending any of the cantankerous shit that you get saying, hey, we need to cancel rent. No, I don't believe in that. You're living in a place, someone else owns that. You sign a contract saying you're going to pay them to live there. I'm sorry that you lost your job. I know the economy's shit, but that's not the private property owner's fault that you do because they have their own shit, their own obligations.
You're missing.
What's your point?
You're not biting. You're not biting what I'm saying. You're not biting on the fact that somebody goes in there and
make me bite
and says, "Well, I'm not going to. We're reaching the time here." But what I'm saying is, someone goes to a group or somebody says something that's hateful, and I don't quite know what's driving that. And I think we need to have a discussion as to what's driving.
Here's my theory.
Well, we hit the time, so if it's a period. If it's a nutshell theory, but like I said,
and loan pricing is way different.
But what I said is,
you can hate loan pricing.
You know, this is a.
I do.
This is a greater conversation. It's just that you brought up the swastika in the window, and it just made me think the fact that somebody would do that in my world makes them a bad person.
So
here's the
quick psychological analysis on this. is the type of people that are posting hateful shit on the internet, not to be funny, but just to be hateful
Just
and
be
vitriolic.
mean.
Right. So these are the types of people that, one, don't get much attention in their life.
I think that's a very good point, James.
They're not getting much attention. So what's the easiest way to get attention? Do something negative.
Provocative.
And also,
Not negative, provocative.
But both, they
yeah, but it's really hard to do something provocative and positive.
Okay, so sorry,
stop.
go ahead.
The
James, go
Dutch
ahead.
14-year-old.
Okay, but whatever the case is, like, these people are looking for attention. They can't get it through positive means because they either lack the ability or the personality to get positive attention, and the internet makes it very easy for them to get negative attention. So they're just going to say the worst things possible to get people riled up. And they also, these are people that probably don't have much else going for themselves in their life. So this is one way that they can feel temporarily important, because they're able to get a response from other people that are more important than them, which in their own minds equivalence makes them as important as the people that are responding to them.
Well said. Let's leave it there. Let's conclude the episode. I think this is a topic we can really dive into, and I'd love to get some more perspective on it. But we hit the time limit. And
So to sum it all up, it's all the Jews' fault.
I'm saying the contrary. But thank you, Mel Gibson.
Yeah, well, I guess we will shoot a laser at you tonight because you said it wasn't our fault.
Thank you. All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
You're very welcome.
Adios.
All right. Cheers.
See ya. Bye, guys.
All right, like I said in the beginning, be nice. You be nice to people, you're going to live a much better life. That's my advice. That's the take home. Also, hit me up if you're looking to buy or sell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.